Hello, this is J9LP giving you at long last another instalment of my views on news. And this is going to be a bit of a special one because not only haven't been doing this for that different ages, well, it also has in it a little bit of an update as to what has been going on in my life and of course why I haven't been uploading as such for a good while. And I gotta be completely totally honest with you, I am this time, seriously. Yes, I know how terrible that is. I always promising these things and never actually turn up because things end up taking over my life. And this instance is a game. It's a single video game, and it's one game that I didn't think I was going to play at all, mostly because a lot of people have been down on it, myself included, but it's also been very, very addictive. And it was something that I think I promised I was going to talk about in another one of my views on the news, or I don't know if you watched that, not many people watched it anyways, but I might as well talk about it now. So it was something I was going to be talking about ages ago, but recently it's been in the limelight for a whole number of reasons. I'm of course talking about no, actually I've not been talking about that at all. We're talking about Pokemon Shuffle. Wait, what? Yes, we're talking about Pokemon Shuffle. It's a free-to-play game on the 3DS and now on mobile, but I'll talk more about that later. It has essentially, it's swallowed me, it's eaten me up. I am talking from within the bowels of Pokemon Shuffle, or maybe within the stomach acid, and I'm still got these gastric juices of FTP goodness splurging all over me, and it's not letting me go at all, unfortunately. So that's why things haven't been going on the channel for a good while, and unfortunately I don't have a recording device to actually even record the gameplay I've actually been doing on there. If I did, then you'd probably be seeing nothing but Pokemon Shuffle vids on there, and I don't think the people who are looking forward to a particular playthrough that I'm hopefully finishing in the future in particular actually wants to see that. And so I might as well inject this into my views and news, including the news that, well, news that you probably heard a long time ago before, that Pokemon Shuffle has gone multi-platform. Yes, it's also available on iOS and Android platforms, both on mobile and tablet. This was first released in Japan in, I think it was like June 2015 as a beta with all the stages of the original. And the key differences between this and the 3DS version, one of them being in that it's a fair bit harder and there's a fair bit more spending going on, with some Pokemon actually taking up 2 hearts instead of just the 1, unlike Candy Crush Saga, in which if you win you don't actually use up a heart, they're more lives. In this instance they're pretty much kind of turns you can have, so even if you won or lost it still eats up a heart, which caused a lot of consternation at one point from a lot of people because there was no way you could actually store the hearts that you've gained either through Street Pass or through certain prizes once you've passed the level, or in some special events, or in the case of mobile version through Facebook. So the items in the mobile version are also more expensive. They cost a few more coins than the 3DS version. So there's that to contend with. Obviously this has been designed to basically extract more money from whales, which is why a lot of people never really liked the 3DS version in the first place, but with this one it's a heck of a lot more prevalent, and they bring up a lot of windows sort of telling you to spend this and you need this amount of money, so you can spend this jewel, which is basically the item that you can get to spend on more hearts and more coins, but you have to spend real money on. Those are the microtransactions of the game. Also, the game is always online, which obviously isn't too much of a problem when you're on mobile, because, well, you can get online from anywhere, except maybe if you go underground to work like I do, and it's a bit more of a problem then. Although that said, I'm not too bad for that. I have free Wi-Fi on the underground, but that's only on stations. On the actual train journey itself, yeah, I can't really play that. So I just play the 3DS version, because you don't need to go online for that much at all, really. Only for when you check in which case you actually get free coins. In the mobile version, that happens automatically. But to offset that, there is actually a gift box in the mobile version, which actually contains prizes that are given away periodically. When you first get it, you get 10,000 coins and a free item, which is actually kind of nice of them. I've actually played both the 3DS and the mobile version, and while the mobile version certainly looks cleaner, obviously because it's higher resolution than the 3DS version, I kind of feel there obviously hasn't been as much budget thrown in on that version as there is in the 3DS version, because the 3DS version to me feels more gamey. It feels faster somehow. Everything seems to move smoothly. You know, there's not really kind of that much cheap assets now, although you probably wouldn't be able to tell because of the lower resolution. But on the mobile version, I just feel that the effects don't seem to be as great, and just the general feel of the thing feels definitely like a cheap mobile game. So I've been playing the 3DS version a heck of a lot more, and it is, to me, just seems to be a bit more accessible. The mobile version is alright. It's I'll play it, but I don't have as much incentive to do so, especially as it's asking you to spend money a lot of the time. A heck of a lot more than the 3DS version did anyway. But that's enough of my feelings about all that. I might as well throw in, obviously this is about news, the latest Pokemon Shuffle events, which include Dialga, Giratina, Palkia, Latias, and Absolite. Absolite, as you Pokemon guys and gals will probably know, I have to be honest with you, I'm not really into Pokemon, so this is kind of my introduction to Pokemon, and it's been quite an interesting ride so far. I've actually been getting into quite a lot of the Pokemon stuff. It's been pretty cool knowing sort of Pokemon lore and all that kind of stuff. Talking about Absolite, it's obviously a Mega Stone for Absol to Mega Evolve to Mega Absol. This is a timed battle. It is 1 minute long, and it's kind of similar to the timed expert stages you get in the game, where you can essentially match any Pokemon no matter which way against the clock. Interestingly enough, Absol is pretty much the first expert stage you tackle in the game. The fact that the Absolite has come now, ever since the 3DS version launched, this is actually exclusive to the 3DS version, by the way. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because a lot of the other Pokemon in the expert stages got their Mega Stones beforehand, and that includes all of the Kanto starters, the fully evolved versions of them. Blaziken has already got the Mega Stone as well, and so has Lucario. And some of those events have actually come twice over. Lucario Night has been repeated a fair amount of time, and so has Venusaur as well. So for the Absolite, the prizes include the Mega Stone itself for the top 12,000 contestants at 20,000 in North America. For the top 2,400 or 3,800 in North America, they'll get a Mega Stone plus a Mega Speed Up, which is a little sweetie that you can feed to any of your Pokemon that Mega Evolve so they can Mega Evolve faster. The top 17,000 or the top 27,000 in North America will get an attack power-up item which you can use once just to make your attacks a fair bit more powerful and be able to beat your Pokemon a lot quicker. You can actually save those for combos that will give you a higher score. By the way, anyone who enters the contest will get a free jewel to spend on hearts and coins. So Dialga and Palkia, the latter of who's actually appeared for the first time in the 3DS version, are actually one-time events that will last for a couple of weeks. Interestingly enough, in the mobile version, Giratina is actually in there as an escalation battle event. This is an event where with each battle you win, Giratina will actually level up to the next level, and that will also increase your chances of catching him by 1%. This is actually being held in tandem with another escalation battle on the 3DS version, which features Latias. That one's actually especially interesting because as you progress, you'll reach certain milestones where you will win prizes, which include items like Mega Starts, which will actually allow your Pokemon to Mega Evolve from the start of the battle, and in the higher places you will get Mega Speed Ups, and in the case of Latias you will actually get a Mega Stone. Yes, you will get Latiasite once you've gone a certain way, and you can actually use that going on through the escalating battle. This is especially interesting because Latias is a dragon type, and dragons are essentially super effective against each other, so that's actually pretty cool. By the way, if you're kind of confused as to why Latias is just a dragon type and not a dragon psychic type, yeah, they don't have dual types in the game, they'll just choose one or the other. For instance, counter to that, Dialga, Giratina and Palkia actually all have their elemental types rather than the dragon types that they all are. So I do kind of find it interesting that the mobile version has all of the creation trio at this point, with Arceus already being featured on the 3DS a good while back. It's interesting where we're probably getting to catch up with stuff while the 3DS version is just getting Palkia right about now, which will actually complete the set there. Dialga, interestingly enough, is showed up on the second time on the 3DS version. So for me, there will be a second chance of actually getting Dialga. I failed the first time as I was just getting into the game at that point. Going back to the Absolute contest, there's been a couple of problems with that. One of them being hackers. Yes, they have to come in and ruin party for the rest of us. They've actually gone in with Pokemon that haven't actually been released yet. So currently Ditto has been found in the leaderboards with his ability to match with any Pokemon in the grid. So as you can tell at that point, he's heavily OP, and people have actually managed to hack into it and get him into the game to score insane points, which is fine if they kind of do it in their own stead, but some of them have actually been using in the contest and have been posting scores of over 710,000, in a lot of cases over 400,000. Given that scores typically range in the top 80 to 90,000s for the top 5, this is not on at all. In fact, this has actually happened before in the last contest where the prize was Mega Charizard Y. There was a few unreleased Pokemon there, including Palkia, and primal forms of Kyogre and Groudon, I pronounce that in complete honesty. And they've been coming in with scores of up to 658,000, possibly more in the end of it. I don't know, I didn't really pay attention afterwards because they were just being wiped anyway. You know, the data was actually being read as invalid, and after a while the scores will get wiped. I don't really understand why the scores couldn't have just been blocked at the time of getting the score, but obviously the systems aren't as advanced as that, it would seem. Honestly, that wasn't as bad as the mobile version. With that done, there was absolutely tons of ridiculous scores, pretty much the maximum score that you could score, which was like just under 10 million. And there were tons of those scores, and in the mobile version it's been a heck of a lot harder to actually clean it up. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're still in the process of giving out prizes to people because some of them haven't been given to the right people who actually participate in the mobile version. Yeah, that contest over there has just been rendered a bit of a mess, whereas in the 3DS version we got our prizes pretty much the next day, really. Although with that one it may seem that some of the hackers have slipped through in that, but we don't really know either way. So that hasn't really stopped me from entering contests, and it hasn't stopped me from playing the game either. I know it's free to play with the lure of microtransactions, but in all honesty I've gone quite far into the game. Both the 3DS and the mobile versions, I haven't spent much of anything on there at all. So yeah, I'm going to keep playing the game for a good while, which I suppose some of you think, well, does that mean that you've completely stopped posting any videos at all now? Well, more on that later, folks, as we go into our next news intro. Nintendo announced their new president, who will be taking the reins of the late Satoru Iwata, who passed away in July due to bile duct cancer. And who will be taking over is named Tatsumi Kimishima, who was the former Chief Executive Officer of Nintendo of America. He had been running that since 2002, overseeing the generation of the Game Boy Advance, GameCube, DS and Wii, before moving to a managing directorial role in 2013 when the former president took over. He's actually 75 years of age, which I know a lot of people thinking that is kind of well over the age of retirement. But he also has more of a managerial and financial acumen than the late president. That said, he's nevertheless sticking to the plan outlined by Iwata regarding the company's direction towards quality of life products and the as yet unknown NX platform. Let me stress this again, we do not know what it is yet. Yes, we know it's going to be Nintendo's next hardware platform, but we don't know what form it's going to take. So please stop it with the whole kind of, oh, it's going to be the next console, the handheld. We honestly don't know. Only people who know are Nintendo, and they're not going to let us know until later next year. But that's not going to stop people speculating. That's absolutely fine, but don't spout those speculations as facts, please. It's a load of nonsense. Anyway, so it will be overlooking that, and also the recent partnership with DNA, producing games for mobile platforms. So obviously, looking at him, he hasn't, a lot of people say, oh, he doesn't have the charisma of Satoru Iwata, and unlike Satoru Iwata, he's not a developer and hasn't put his hands into actually making games, and people question if he's even a gamer, or whatever you call that. But from my perspective, and probably from most other people's who are actually kind of looking into this thing without, kind of rose-tinted specs of what was in the past, in all complete honesty. With age comes experience, and I think his financial bent with Nintendo and the Pokemon Company, which he was Chief Financial Officer for a good time there, should actually ensure that Nintendo stays healthy for years to come. And I know a lot of people are kind of questioning what that actually means for Nintendo as far as hardware and games are concerned. A lot of people are saying, you know, would Nintendo's philosophy with hardware change back maybe to having more powerful components in there that will actually match the competition this time? I'm going to say this now, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but this has never happened. Not really. The NES came at around the time where a lot of people were actually trying to find a vent with hardware that would actually be able to be managed by people using fast machines like the Ataris and stuff like that. And what they came out with then was pretty much ahead of its time for the most part. But I think after that, even then, they had made compromises along the board. For instance, the Super Nintendo, which came after the Genesis, didn't even have a 16-bit processor. People will say, no, it's a 16-bit version. No, it's not. It wasn't a 16-bit processor. The graphics engine was 16-bit. It did have the Mode 7, which sort of set it apart from the Genesis, or the Mega Drive, should I say. I should be saying the Mega Drive. That's what it was called over in Blighty and in Japan, for Pete's sakes. Did actually give it the graphical edge, and the sound chip, of course, which was actually 8-bit PCM sound, which had samples in it rather than the FM sound chip of the Mega Drive. But the processor was heavily compromised, and you could see that a lot with the games being really slowed down. Even the Nintendo 64, which had a powerful processor and a pretty damned hefty graphics chip that had a lot of effects that were ahead of its time, like by linear filtering in the textures and stuff like that. Even that was compromised very much in contrast to the PlayStation, with a lot of rather low memory, and also the other obvious fact that it was cartridge based rather than CD-ROM based, so it didn't hold as much data. Even the GameCube, which a lot of people say was comparable to the Xbox, which is pretty much true, and it did have a slightly higher clocked processor than even the PlayStation 2 did. Even that was compromised by not having that many programmable shaders. They had to use TEV for most of the effects. Also, the media it was on was 1.5 gigs as opposed to the 4.7 gigs of DVD medium that the other two competitors used. And there was a heck of a lot less memory, both in the system memory and graphical memory, in that as well. So despite the fact that games did look comparable to the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, and in some cases better, it would be argued to say, it still was very compromised in that regard. So in all honesty, the compromise in the technology they used didn't really show up until, of course, the Wii, where they essentially just held back on pretty much everything other than motion controls and basically took over though because it was extremely cheap. And the same goes for the DS line, of course, the 3DS and the Wii U. So in all complete total honesty, even with the new president in line, I don't think that philosophy is going to change. Also, there have actually been murmurs that he's actually only going to be there as a temporary measure. Anyway, people are actually looking elsewhere for a president for Nintendo, and there actually have been murmurs of Level 5's boss, Akihiro, or to say his full name, Akihiro Hino, fact actually been headhunted for the position of president of Nintendo. Of course, that's just rumour. I'm not particularly going to hold into that. Although that said, it kind of makes sense, given that he's head of a software company that has seen great success with a lot of their products. They of course developed the Professor Layton series and also the Inazuma 11 and Yokai Watch, who have been making great moves in at least the Japanese video games market and being consistent best-selling title over there. And a lot of their games seem to almost follow Nintendo's philosophy on what games are, so it could be a pretty good successor, who knows. But until then, we're all looking towards Kimishima's direction and of course hoping that he's actually be able to carry Nintendo forward through their plans and maybe even develop further to perhaps better third-party relations. I know we can dream there, but who knows? And just basically even more fun games from the company themselves. We'll just have to see what happens there. Now, my views on news will not be complete without a mention of Konami. Yes, we're talking about these guys again. Do we really need to be talking about these, considering that a lot of people just do not like them at all anymore? And I have to say, I'm kind of warming to that point of view. Very much so, in fact, especially in the light of the latest news that came out, and that is that Konami ceases to exist. I mean, ceases pretty much all AAA game production. Although this is actually speculation, but not 2 weeks after the overwhelmingly successful launch of Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, which has seen humongous critical acclaim and sold fantastically in all regions, shipping about 3 million copies in the first 5 days. It's been reported that the good ship Konami is to reduce AAA game production to one game franchise, that being Pro Evolution Soccer, which has also been a bit of a money spinner for them, and their recent entry in that, which is Pro Evolution Soccer 2016, has seen great movement, at least in the European charts. So what does that mean for well-loved franchises such as Castlevania, Silent Hill, Son of the Enders, Dance Dance Revolution, the B-Mainly line as it were? Well, they've all pretty much fallen by the wayside anyway, and many of those properties is not been seeing new iterations of dedicated games since 2013. As we know, the latest Silent Hill, which was called Silent Hills, was cancelled. While classics such as Contra, Gradius and Suikoden have all been pretty much neglected, with only Suikoden being seen recently on PSN. It's actually been released there for a decent price, so it's the only way you can get on that. And of course, lesser known properties such as Sparkster, the Blades of Time, and of course Bowtie, well, they've got no chance. They're just not going to be happening at all. I don't think you're ever going to be seeing hide nor hair of those games, unless of course they end up being on mobile or end up being on pachinko machines, just like the recent erotic violence, hitting the lever and all of that load of nonsense. And despite the fact that they seem to have increased their presence on the PC platform, it's really been no better, because Pro Evolution Soccer 16 and Metal Gear Solid 5 has been compromised horribly in one way or another. For instance, Pro Evolution Soccer 16, the port is essentially the port of the last gen versions, the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 ports, which is kind of really, really bad. Also, Metal Gear Solid 5, the physical release, turned out to be nothing more than a Steam key, hilariously missing the point of a physical release. Well, that's not hilarious at all, really. Of course, Konami's actually stepped forward to refute the claim. Well, I wouldn't say Konami stepped forward. A customer support rep actually stepped forward to say that I can promise you that we're definitely not leaving Metal Gear behind or anything like that. I know some blogs were claiming that, but I'm not really sure where they're getting that from. They then went on to say we're still definitely working on console games and franchises such as Metal Gear, Silent Hill, Castlevania, PES and all the rest. And of course, this has been a customer support rep. There's really no weight to those words at all, in all complete honesty. They're just denying it. You know, like I said, it may be speculation, but I wouldn't pull it past them at this point. You know, given what's happened before with them pulling the Kojima Productions name from Metal Gear Solid for a long time and trying to silently put away the PT demo, anything that comes out from there can almost be taken as gospel at this point, and any kind of refutes from Konami can just be safely ignored, or we can just see what happens later. From my perspective and from my point of view, am I finished with Konami? Well, no. Castlevanias are still great. I'm still playing those. I'm still actually playing through the old Castlevanias at the moment. I'm going through Castlevania 3 and I'm really enjoying that. I will actually be finishing off the playthroughs of that I've been going on then, but you know, seeing the company going down the way it is, it hasn't been easy for me. It really hasn't. It's just almost been in a constant state of depression. And I know there are a lot of people out there who are probably looking at me right now and thinking, for Pete's sake, will you leave that company alone? You know, Konami is the new EA, for Pete's sakes. And I'm going to have to say that they're not the new EA. They're not. They're worse. Much worse. They've actually managed to take over the mantle of pretty much, you know, if not America's worst company, then certainly the worst company in video games at this particular moment in time. And I'm sorry, I can't join you all in celebrating this, having a laugh at their downfall while actually having fun playing Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, despite all its problems. I've been hearing the things about that, and the story isn't actually great, and one of the characters in there that actually should be pretty awesome has been a cause for controversy as to whether it's actually there just to placate certain trains of thought and titillation side of things, which, in all complete honesty, looking that quiet, I mean, it speaks for itself, really. Yeah, but yeah, other than that, you know, it's, to me, it's sad, it's depressing, it's video games, man. That's all I've been doing for the past minute, just enjoying video games and trying not to have to worry about this crap. Although that said, I am subscribed to the Jimquisition and I've been watching that quite a lot, and Jim Sterling is beside himself with mirth at the moment. All the complete total of bollocks that Konami has been falling over. Yes, they've been falling over their own bollocks. That's how bad it is. In fact, I'm pretty sure all the steam that has been coming out of their offices recently is just essentially all the hot air they've been spewing over this whole thing about them keeping to video game development. And yeah, that's all it is a whole load of hot air. You know, this thing's been going on for quite a while and it is depressing to look at, but at the end of the day, That's just video games. I will say though that the time with Konami beforehand has actually been really enjoyable, and I will continue to live those moments of the awesome stuff that I did in the past rather than lament at the future. So it's a hashtag thanks Konami for the good times of the past, even though I'm not really into hashtags that much. Moving on, staying on the subject of the future, well, we all know what's coming up to be big in gaming in the future, and that is, of course, virtual reality. And Sony's entry in virtual reality, which was named Project Morpheus, but has now got the official name of PlayStation VR, has been the subject of a bit of concern about pricing. And a statement from Sony's Computer Entertainment's Andrew House pretty much suggests that the VR headset, which will launch in early 2016, with about 10 VR-ready titles, including Riggs, which was showcased at E3 this year, the headset will not be cheap. In fact, he pretty much said that they're treating it as a new gaming platform, which obviously suggests that it's going to be probably around the price of a new console. What is essentially a peripheral being the same price as the platform that it runs on. Rampant speculation abounds, with murmurs that the price could be anywhere between 350 to 400 quid. The Oculus Rift dev version, that is, that has been out for quite a while, was already sitting around that price, but that's just bearing in mind it's a dev kit. It's actually been confirmed recently that the retail price of the Oculus Rift will be more around the $300 mark, or that would be around 230 quid. That's the equivalent. It might actually be a bit more than that. It might be 250 quid, who knows, but it's still actually kind of cheaper than what they're speculating with the Morpheus. And in all complete honesty, they both could be around that price. Morpheus made the PlayStation VR, I'm sorry to say, so we're used to calling it that. The PlayStation VR will probably be hanging around that price as well. Other people there are thinking, well, yeah, that is a bit expensive, isn't it? Well, bearing in mind the other contenders in the VR space has prices fairly sort of comparable to that, although looking at the extreme ends of the spectrum here, we've got the Samsung Galaxy Gear VR, which had launched at a price of around 189, and I think it's even cheaper now, if I recall correctly. And then there's the HTC Vive, which was actually suggested by HTC staff to be slightly more expensive than the Rift. I don't know if they were talking about the actual retail price that's been announced, or obviously the dev kit price. I would hope it would be the former, but then again, with that one, there's probably going to be more support with Steam and other Valve services that had come to light when they first showcased the peripheral. Yeah, and I'm calling it a peripheral at this point. I'm not calling it a new gaming platform, because it's not a new gaming platform. It's a new gaming interface. It's a new way of playing, certainly, but it's a gaming interface, and it's an interface for a lot of other things as well. Facebook wouldn't have bought it if that wasn't the case. And I actually did say something about what I think of VR in gaming, and I'm kind of more interested in VR in other applications. And the entry price for VR, probably was never going to be cheap from the beginning, but I think considering what it is, considering the step forward that it is, considering the the paradigm shift it's offering in gaming and outside of gaming as well. It's actually, I'd probably say it's a fair price, and it may, as these things develop, even come down a fair bit more of a consumer friendly price. The Samsung Galaxy Gear VR, as you know, actually relies on hooking up to your mobile phone to actually get the full experience, and that's probably on the lower end of the spectrum, as obviously the price reflects. If that pretty much takes off, then there's going to be fierce competition among the other dudes in that race. It does kind of make me wonder where Microsoft's new, not necessarily VR, but AR entry into that market, the HoloLens, actually comes into that, because I heard that wasn't necessarily going to be cheap. I didn't talk about the HoloLens thing in my E3 cover-up because I still wasn't necessarily convinced. Even when I did showcase it, it was like, yeah, I am not buying what I'm seeing here, because it's just not going to be anything like that. And reports from the show floor showed that the field of vision with the HoloLens wasn't as big as they made it out to be in that demo. So whenever that comes into the market, I'm not sure that's gonna hold in that race, but it kind of gives sort of some credence to why they're moving forward with these devices. And there's been plenty of development time for the games and the interfaces for it to actually move forward. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. And yeah, I personally think the pricing, yes, it's comparable to a new gaming platform, but even if it is just a new gaming interface, it's a pretty significant one, and we'll see what more developments come out with these new devices in the future. Okay, well, that's all I've got time for, and that's a heck of a lot to cover, but hopefully I'll be able to tear myself away from Pokemon Shuffle at some point and actually get back on track onto my stuff, including my views on news, which I did say I was going to do something that I was going to do while I was kind of taking a break from stuff, but I seem to have lasted a bit longer than I thought it would. Sorry about that. So if you'd like to leave your views on this news in the comment and other general stuff, feel free to do so. And until the next views on news, thanks for watching, thanks for listening as it were, and keep on playing, folks. Bye!